whole time.
So, without further ado...
I also don't have a score for Donnie Darko.
Ooh, well, you better have it by the time we get there, because we are now live with the Effin' Movie Podcast. I'm, of course, your host today, Dylan Camacho, and today we're talking about Donnie Darko. And that is our man all the way to the left over here, Pick. Mason Rector, everybody.
Hello.
Hey. Also to my left, we have Price Ding Dong Bell in the house, everybody. In his house.
Present.
Literally. And we have to our right, the one, the only, the tech man himself, Nathan Lane. That's right. The actor, Nathan Lane. Here with us
I
live.
thought he stepped off the cliff after Birdcage, but he didn't.
Nope, still here. He did Mousetrap or Rat Trap or something like
He's
that.
Stuart Little.
He was in Modern Family.
Yeah, he's on some other
that
stuff.
him?
Yeah.
He was definitely in Modern Family.
So this isn't a Modern Family podcast, but we are here to talk about Donnie Darko and no longer Nathan Lane. All right, let's go ahead and just recap a little bit. Tell us about Donnie Darko. Mason or Nathan, either or.
So, this movie is a cult film, and it starts out as this troubled kid, about, 15, 16?
He's in high school.
He's in high school.
I think he's older.
He doesn't drive.
I think that's important for the sex that comes later on.
You see, the reason
like
he
it's
doesn't
important.
drive is because he had gotten in trouble and isn't allowed to drive till he's like 21.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
Legally. He was,
Like,
alright, so
He's legally unable to
He's
He
drive.
might be a senior.
no younger than 16, though,
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
which is the
So,
legal age in Kentucky.
Troubled kid who pretty much just sees this therapist and is having issues left and right, family, not family, whatever, and starts seeing this imaginary friend who basically just starts telling him what to do and when to do it, whether they're good things or bad things. Characters develop and...
Well, do we want to talk about like kind of what's really going on? Because I mean, it's full spoilers.
Yeah.
Like what's really going on is he's in a time loop.
yeah, he's
That
definitely a Groundhog
is-
Day kind of...
Like the reason that early on, was it Frankie or
Frank.
Frank, the bunny rabbit, very early on tells him that the world is going to end in 28 days,
Mhm.
and like
It's going to be on
22
Halloween.
days, 18
yeah,
minutes.
basically
something.
on Halloween.
Right.
That's when the world's going to end.
Yeah.
Right.
And what that really means is that this little time loop that he's like off in a tangent of where somehow he didn't get killed, that's going to end in 28 days.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the one to end it.
Yeah.
Like the main character, Donnie.
Without realizing it, this does kind of unironically inspire Final Destination, I think, to a point, because it's like, hey, what's a scenario where it's like people are supposed to die but didn't, but instead of being the horror movie terrible thing that Final Destination is, Donnie Darko kind of just gives you, all right, here's 30 days of what this person's life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But now he's seeing the effects that he has, and like he's starting to see all the time fluxes that are happening and all this extra weird stuff.
Sort of.
Well,
Right.
I think it's more so because the what's the girl's name that he was dating? Does anybody remember?
Oh.
In any case,
Gretchen.
Gretchen, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gretchen. Yes.
Think
I
subtitles.
feel like
Honestly.
I feel like the big thing with that is like the reason he decides that he's got to, stop what's been going on and fix this whole time loop
Yeah.
is because she dies,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like that's why
That's
at
the
end he's-
realization of it, and
Right.
that he realizes that he can prevent that
Yeah.
by going back in time.
Okay, so I finished this about 5 minutes ago. The whole time I've been trying to deal with my cell phone carrier. They've been giving me tons of grief. Mason kind of attest. So I didn't get to watch this with 100% focus, and I haven't got to digest that ending at all. So please explain to me again, like what exactly happened at the end, because I was on the call when like that.
so
Like-
at the very beginning, you remember when
The
like
time I remember the time travel, like how time travel works. You have to
He
have
was-
a carrier and all that kind of stuff.
he
and
was
then,
up on this hill and he was like asleep or whatever, and then this jet engine like came down in his room. He came home and everyone's like, "Oh shit, there he is!" And then
Yeah.
at the very end, after Gretchen got ran over, he took her in his car. He went to where'd he go to that
To
woman's
to the top of the-
Lady
Lady Death's house.
Yeah, grandmother Death.
Grandma Death.
Grandma Death.
Sparrow.
Yeah.
Miss
Roberta
Sparrow.
Sparrow.
Yeah.
And anyways, and he takes her to this certain spot, which completes the loop. And somehow, for some reason, he knows that if he is in this spot, he will actually somehow end back in his house. And he,
Well, and the other weird thing that it doesn't really say, but it's also happening is his sister and mom would have died in
Hadn't.
the airplane
Yeah.
had he not done that.
Right.
True.
Because that part of the airplane engine that kills him is just like a part that kind of got scooped out of time and dropped on him because
It was like a fragment.
28
Right.
days later, whenever they were flying back, there's
Yeah.
that scene where the airplane is losing control because that engine just disappeared, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
So it
And
would have been more
showed up
detrimental.
28 days earlier.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if
Okay.
we look at all the full-term repercussions of it, like Donnie has pretty much unintentionally has this choice where he's like, okay, if I die here like I'm supposed to, then that means I'm saving my girlfriend,
Gretchen.
my mom, and my sister, and preventing a lot
Technically,
of
Frank.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
technically
And-
Frank because he kills Frank with a gun.
And I
which-
think he also doesn't get Patrick Swayze in jail,
Oh,
which,
yeah.
by the way, did he plant that, or did Frank plant all of that stuff to
No,
make him
No,
go to
I think
jail?
that's
pretty
genuinely
close
there.
there.
Yeah.
That's what I took it
Because
as.
there's one small clip I knew that going back into rewatching this film is that during the promo cuts where it's showing him like talking with like the boy and then the woman in the videos where they're talking about like fear and it's like his like promo videos, like there's a small little clip where it shows him coming up to the boy and he smacks him on the butt, and I see that very briefly, but I remember thinking I'm like, oh, he's a pedo.
That
And then
got you? Really? It's
Well,
like the
it-
80s. Like
no,
that's
it
like,
doesn't. No, it didn't bother me. What I'm
Oh.
saying is, I noticed it. Like it was one of
Okay.
knowing the context of it, and then having that clip of scene. I'm
I
like,
took
oh, they give you a nod, like just
Yeah.
small enough for you to
Sure, I took it like Frank kind of, I don't know, slipped that in while he was burning his house down, just not only to like burn his house down, but oh, this dude's going away for a long
Nah, I get the
time.
impression that he's and that's
I
why
think
even
he genuinely is.
Okay.
right, and
If
that's
that's the case, then
on
he
the end
just-
clip whenever it shows him on like it kind of shows everybody's reactions that have interacted with Donnie. Like you see him like crying in
Yeah,
bed.
yeah, he was weeping.
Right, and that one I think is more of like shame and guilt related
Sure.
to like the pedophilia part on that.
Well, and I know we're going into a whole lot of like this time travel stuff, but
Right.
that's not really what this movie is.
Right.
It's really just like that middle class angsty kind of teenager story.
This is shocker, a teen drama at its core.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like a sci-fi mental healthy weird like teen drama that's like pretty grounded in like that dark stuff with just all the extra stuff thrown in, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I swear we know this movie, but when we explain it, it does sound like mad science and stuff whenever you got to get to like the whole thing that it's driving around.
We're talking about the plot. I mean,
Yeah,
the plot. That's what the plot is. I mean,
Right, right.
But,
But
it's
you
not
watch
so
it for-
much that too, because
Yeah,
it's
you watch
also so much of like just what Donnie's up to and like
Right.
just that kind of rebellious stuff that he's doing
Mhm.
through the
Yeah.
course of the movie. Like that, I can see 100% why, as a teenager, I love this movie.
Mhm.
as I was
Super
watching
connected
this,
with
like
this character.
Yeah.
I knew like the aesthetic would get to you, like the connection. Like
Yeah.
I knew
Mhm.
Nathan felt this.
And I think that this is, I think we can kind of leave away from the plot for right now. We kind of go into our preference pieces and kind of talk
Mhm.
about this. This is a movie that it was a lot it was a lot different for me on my experience as an adult watching this compared to like my teenage one, because I saw this like 12, 13, I think, for the first time or something like that, right when this movie was just like, I see it as a very deep movie because I'm like, oh, this movie gets
Sure.
me. It's in this phase. Like, I feel like I'm definitely connecting with Donnie at that age. And then, like, I'd seen it probably like 16, 17, 18, and then, like, maybe as like a young adult, and it still felt like kind of had that same tone. But now being closer to like 30 than anything and like rewatching this film, it does have this sense of feeling like I can see where teenage Joan loved this movie because it felt really deep. But now I'm like, this is deep for a teenager, but I'm also an adult now who is also dealing with a lot more in life. So I'm like, okay. But the point was, I'm like, that it's supposed to sit there and reach that
Yeah.
audience in that way.
Well,
I'm
and
14 and this is
the
Yeah.
interesting thing, I think, to looking at it now as opposed to like as a teenager,
Mhm.
is I really like the parents. Like his
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
were great.
They
His
are.
parents were very cool the
Mhm.
whole time, and like I really felt like they did a good job of seeming like real people.
Right.
They did.
because they could have been caricatures. The dad could have easily.
Oh, he
turned
could have been
into
just a
caricature.
right wing, just terrible person. You actually kind of enjoy the dad because he sits there and he laughs whenever
like the
Donnie
dad
does
from
shit.
Birdcage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where you sit there and you think you're gonna really hate this person, but they keep it real and that, like, exactly to your point. Like, there's scenes where he's talking about, well, are you gonna support this people whenever your like Democratic like person doesn't support everybody and we're all paying 50% tax? But then like Donnie sits there and he tells the teacher that she can shove a book up her ass, and then he's just like, he laughs at the
And
principal.
they're all just smiling.
Right.
Yeah, they're good people.
Right.
That's good. I think, I don't know. We can probably get to like
This is
the
punchline.
therapist.
Every time he starts.
The therapist.
I'm like, I don't know.
The therapist in this movie was just rough.
Oh my God.
It's a psychologist. I want to start by prefacing that as a mental health counselor and knowing the difference with it. You do you first. I'm gonna go on my rant on that here in a minute.
So like the main qualm that I had with this movie was he was seeing this imaginary dude. That's fine. He was following these bubble paths, out of the chest. He was into this time travel nonsense. He was into all this stuff, and the main contributor to that was he was taking these pills, and then he was taking these pills more excessively, and then more and more excessively, and then they had a meeting, the parents and the therapist by themselves, and the therapist straight up said, I think we need to up the dose. And it's just like this oh my god kind of thing, because like I don't know,
That's how.
nowadays that
Yeah, but
wouldn't
back
fly,
then,
I
like that's how
guess.
you would fix those kinds of problems. Just over medicate.
Yeah, so I guess you could see that, like looking at that from the perspective of the way they approach mental illness
Sure.
at that point in time.
It was
Like
just
that was,
more.
and I think it was just like I think that was kind of the point too, is it was showing you like this is the answer that's being given to a problem that's being made worse by the thing that you're trying to answer.
Yeah.
And I think it was just to point out the flaw in that kind of logic.
Sure.
The thing I wonder with the therapist is at what point, whenever your patient is like, oh yeah, I'm like doing all this stuff and like I'm thinking about doing even worse stuff. Like,
much
at what
worse.
point do you feel like you need to intervene, or can you even intervene?
Oh,
I'm glad you asked, Nathan, because as a matter of fact, as a mental health counselor specifically, therapist is an umbrella term for those wondering. Therapist covers anywhere from psychologist to social worker to counselor to anybody who provides therapy. Legally, as they should. And it's usually just one of those three jobs, psychiatrists or pill doctors, which is what this person seems like, but I'm not going to here to educate you on that. So exactly to your point on when she should have been warning people, so the ethical rules would sit here and say, if you feel as though that the client is a risk of harm to themselves or others, you need to be reporting it. That means documenting, calling the police, do whatever.
she kind of did.
So she does like way too late into this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
there's like 15 times she should have been like, I should probably be making a report to this. I should at least tell the parents this. She doesn't bring the parents in until she's like, I think I want to up their doses. Which, to that point, here's my personal gripes, but then here's to exactly Nathan's point. Nathan's point is that's how kind of mental health was done a lot of that time, and he's totally right. They were like, oh, cool, you're mentally, not everybody, but the general like definition is probably, oh, cool, you have a mental health issue. Have you tried these drugs? And they threw drugs at it, because that's how a lot of that side of the field was kind of started with it. Now, if we're looking at it nowadays, this is my own personal gripe as a mental health counselor, where I sit here and I watch movies, anything with therapy in it, I'm just so like, especially older movies, because older movies does a terrible job with showing any therapy and making them not look like the worst people in the world.
Yeah.
And
And
like you watch any movie really like pre-2006, 7 or something like that, you're like, this therapist is going to be doing probably a real shitty job, and they're going to really turn you off the therapy, which is a huge pet peeve of mine, because it just stigmatizes everything more. It's like, why would you go to therapy? You're just going to get fucked up more.
Have you really not seen The Sopranos?
I really haven't. So
Then you'll really hate how they portray it.
even more reason not to watch it. So, and this is, going into like meta movements, or if we watch this movie in 10 years, I'll say this is an age comment, but stuff like 13 Reasons Why and stuff like that. I heard that the therapist probably isn't super great in that one either, or anything like that.
I mean, the kid still does kill himself. So apparently he didn't do
Hey,
that very
whoa!
good
At the end, I will never say that kid killing himself is always necessarily related to how good or bad a therapist is.
The therapist got fired in 13 Reasons Why.
Okay, so I haven't watched
because
it.
he was one
Bad
of the
results.
He was one of the reasons.
I haven't watched it, but it's one of the ones I'm not going to
Or
go
the other
into for
12.
that reason. We're not here to talk about 13 Reasons Why.
Do we have time?
No. So altogether, that like this is one of the things where I went back and as I'm rewatching this movie, I'm just like, oh fuck, like here we go, like, and that rewatching that, it wants to bring my score down, but Nathan's point does kind of help salvage it.
It's a
Like,
movie.
I know it's a movie, but I'm like, but it also, you know what? You know how many people more people are watching movies than going to therapy? A lot more. A gratuitous amount more. And when they say, I don't want to go to therapy because I watched Donnie Darko, and I saw that they're just going to give me pills, and if I have more issues, they're going to give me more pills. Not what you do. If somebody has symptoms and you're giving them a pill for it, this is true outside of therapy.
It's just totally off the movie.
Totally related.
No, it's not.
Listen, this is my rant. If somebody has a rash and you give them an ointment to treat that rash, and the rash gets worse, do you give them more ointment for it? It's just basic common sense.
You're just critiquing, like...
You're right, so let's go back into the movie.
Today.
Price, you're ruining this thing.
That's like saying, oh, you shouldn't cut that guy's arm off back in the Civil War because that's not what you should do. That's just how they did it.
Price hates it when I talk about anything therapy because he hates therapy and all things with it. He's part of the problem.
Said this.
So let's talk about Donnie Darko some more because we've gone off.
Good. Thank you.
All right, back to the movie on that. So
I've achieved.
Again, that's my big rant on it. And that was where I was going to wrap up. Price wanted to go longer, so I'm just going to take this 5 extra seconds to say, screw you, Price. I have 5 more seconds
to talk yet anyway. So whatever.
Price, what do you think about the movie?
Lay it on us.
Oh,
You're the most recent one.
Yeah. Never thought I'd get this far.
I wasn't planning on it, but go ahead, Price.
I don't know. Everything. I watched this forever ago. I have no connection to it like these two do, I guess. I don't know. I know you're already shaking your head like you think I'm going to hate it or something.
No, I don't
How
either.
old were you when you watched it? Just out of curiosity.
I would say
26.
No
that's
more
all I
than
am
2
now.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
I would say probably 18 or 19. I'd say I was probably because I can't remember it that much. I remember
I can
really
see
remember
Price
the
relating
rabbit.
with the parents, and that's about it at 18 and 19. I like a rough glance. I could see at 18 and 19,
Price
not like
is the
jogging.
kid at the very end in the street that went.
She's not waving to you.
I feel bad for his family.
Yeah, he got
Thanks,
smushed.
Sorry.
Are you all done?
No, we get more.
Come on, keep
Go ahead.
Smushed.
I'm very just kind of on the movie. I don't feel like anything like that special, like outrageous, was really done in this movie. I'm always a sucker for Jake Gyllenhaal, though. He's just one of those actors. Like
He did
it's like
very
it's like
well.
him and James.
Stupid
It's like
good.
him and James Franco. It's like I don't usually go out of my way to see any of their movies, but I always enjoy them and whatever I'm watching them in.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake Gyllenhaal, I did really well. I mean, that kind of elevated the movie for me. Otherwise, the movie. I know I'm not reporting much, especially compared to like everything else. I haven't got to digest it and really think about it that much, but gut reaction was just kind of like, that was a movie.
Yeah.
Not bad, not the best.
I think.
I know you need more justification, but I really don't have it right now.
I
Be
think-
totally honest.
Thanks,
Like-
Price.
No problem. Glad I could enlighten
So
you
the
guys.
first time I watched this movie, like
What do you
I
think about the
heard
Smurf scene?
so many.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. Oh yeah, I was telling Mason we were watching. My 2 favorite scenes easily was the dinner table conversation at the beginning where Donnie calls her a fuck ass,
Yeah.
and the Smurf scene. Those are easily my favorite 2 parts of the movie.
Suck a fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
How exactly do you suck a fuck?
The dad's just over there like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like that, that's
more
that
than-
very first moment where you're like, this is
is
actually
cool, yeah.
alright,
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the only 2 things like I really liked out of the
Anyway,
movie.
sorry
Yeah.
to do.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mason.
go ahead.
Oh no! So the first time I watched this movie, of course, I knew that it was this cult classic. You know, it's something super deep in it and all this stuff. So I watched it. I really enjoyed it, but I had to look up some stuff from it. Like I wanted to know about the ending. I wanted to know about the symbolic things from it,
Right.
all the metaphor. You know, anything that it had. So I read up on it, and I was like, "Dang, that is pretty cool." And I always looked forward to watching it again, which is why I picked it. This time through, even knowing all of those things, I was just kind of like, it's okay. I don't really know. Kind of like earlier we were talking that it's a teen drama, probably at its core with some like sci-fi-ish things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know like what criteria it lands in because it didn't really jump on any certain ship to have, you know, a side of something else.
It's not a buffet of bland, I'll tell you that.
No, it's got a lot going on, which is good for it. But at the same time, I don't know. Like, it's not a horror film.
No.
It's not a drama.
No, it's not really a thriller.
It's not any. I don't think it's a thriller.
No, it has elements of a lot of things, but it doesn't really do distinctly one thing, period.
Slice of life.
Which, granted, the Jake Gyllenhaal comment,
Well, you could argue.
say
Yeah,
that.
there's an
Oh,
argument for it.
okay.
so good because, like, you know, like Prisoners and this movie, he acted very well in both, but they are so much different.
Yeah.
You know, Prisoners was really good, but he had a good part in both.
But
so.
this was really bad.
This was not really.
Yeah, Prisoners is really
well.
good, but this was really
In
bad.
well, it is one of those things that's very much an HP stone. I like that there's a dynamic where we didn't all watch it at like a teenage years, where like, and I guess
Yeah.
that shows mine and Nathan's age a little bit more at the table, where it's just like we watched this whenever this was really relevant to us, and we've watched this whenever it's less relevant. and we still have feelings about it because of that. Like,
oh, absolutely.
yeah, this is a movie that's still like, as I rewatch it, I'm like 13 again as I'm rewatching it again. I'm just like, oof. There are certain scenes where I'm just like, huh. And then there are certain scenes I'm like, I'm definitely closer to 30, and this doesn't land the way it did before.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm really glad that we decided to watch this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because it reminded me a lot of like that point in my life, and I'm really happy for like that experience.
Yeah.
And like just kind of like thinking back to, that time.
Right.
Because most of the time, whenever I think about myself at that age, I'm just like, gosh, I'm such an idiot.
Yeah.
I was an idiot, and I was
This
probably
gives
miserable.
you some validation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
like some like degree of like being able to sympathize for yourself.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
It's like-
self-loathing for your teenage self. You're like,
because the thing you
I
forget
killed
is
it.
like you really like, at least for me, it's like there was a lot of self-loathing
Yeah.
as a teenager.
and I think that's why that movie clicks with you so much on
Yeah.
this. Like, whenever we say, like, we are Donnie in this movie, that's not a great sign for, like, where we were at, like, that
Not
age.
So much.
Because Donnie's life is, like, as Donnie looks at it, it's pretty miserable. Is it, like,
Mhm.
so kind of coming back, like, taking that step back as an older person looking at this movie now, it does kind of, what I think it does really well is that it does give you that insight to say, all right, when you're at that age and you're watching this movie, you're Donnie. Whenever you're taking a step back, you're maybe not the parents, but you're at least like, you're like, okay, I was Donnie, but I see how his life is now, and it's very much the same way I look at myself back then too. I'm like, things really weren't as dramatic and huge and like life or death as things seemed.
To me, it was like a little bit of that reminder of like, even when things sucked, like you know now that there was a better future ahead.
Oh yeah.
But in that moment, like that teenage moment, that's you can't see beyond that kind
No.
of stuff, and that's kind of where I feel like he couldn't see beyond like his current situation.
I think the movie does another good part on that ending as well. It just kind of gives that same exact tone too, because it's like, all right, when you're a teenager, you see Donnie die, and like that's at the time when I first watched it, that was like a pretty upsetting death
Yeah,
thing.
it's like,
You-
oh, yeah.
right.
Especially
Like,
if
you're
you're
just like,
connecting
ugh.
with them.
Right, like that's your character, and then you just watch him like make this huge sacrifice to do it, and that's like
Yeah.
this deep watching thing.
I could totally see that being a dagger. Like,
Oh, yeah,
especially
no,
back then.
It's
Oh, yeah.
it's a double dagger.
Yeah,
like,
it was a pretty upsetting ending.
Yeah.
Right.
As a teenager.
but then as an adult, I say I'm like, he sat there to like he made a happy ending to this movie, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I think that's very poetic in that way to sit there and say, you can look at your life this way and you can deal with it and go through it this, or you can sit there and make something more of it and maybe don't get crushed by like an airplane engine. That's not my message to all the teens out there, but it is one of the things where it's it's perspective. So you sit there and he's like, okay, he sees so much more what this ending is supposed to be and how much he changes it by doing this.
And you can also kind of draw some parallels to Warriors and like the conversation we had of endings, and if things had gone another way, like how it wouldn't have been the kind of ending that they were after.
Right. If you just
like if this had just been things went as they went,
Mhm.
dead girlfriend,
dead
dead
mom,
mom and
dead
sister.
sister.
like that's a sad ending.
Pedo's in jail.
Pedophile still
Yeah,
in jail.
still in
With
jail.
no house.
Small wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Pick your battles.
But with Donnie Darko, I think that it earned the ending with Jake Gyllenhaal sacrificing himself.
Okay.
Whereas, again, not to rehash this, but Warriors, I felt like it earned the ending of Tom Hardy beating up his brother and winning. Beside the point. That's, again, one of my critiques of
maybe that's
Warrior.
not the best thing to have
No,
put
I-
back
but
up.
I think it is.
I feel
For
like
me, I
as
still
far
think
as discussing
it does.
like
If it
endings
earns the
and had
ending,
things
right.
been-
Yeah.
yeah.
If it earns its ending. And I feel like this movie earned its ending.
Yeah, and it was all about that ending.
Right, like this
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, yeah.
This is a movie
Yeah.
that says this is the ending we're giving you, and like you don't realize it yet, but you're gonna get there with us. Like
Yeah.
it's very focused on that. Also, let's take a quick minute to sit there and say for you guys, it probably didn't land as hard the first time. So when Gretchen, the girlfriend, Jenna Malone's character, gets run over like the first time, that's one of the few scenes in this movie. Like even still, I'm just like, ooh, like that's a gut punch for me because it was a gut punch for me at that time, and that one sticks. Now, like I can already tell Price is like, yeah, I didn't even notice. I was on the phone. Like she got
No,
ran
I
over.
watched that. I told Mason, I was like, I didn't know she was even dead. It looked like she like
It's kind of hard.
Got
Like,
skated
yeah, I
over.
agree.
If they
It's
could have
like-
done it a little better.
Yeah, but
definitely could have.
Well, they also didn't want her to like look.
Sure.
terrible.
You
Right.
had to carry her out of there. Yeah.
She was like, she's
But
still
that's
got to
how
be
she
in a
would be
car
dead.
scene later. Now, kind of speaking on that scene, this whatever time this is, me watching this movie, that whole scene does play out in a very interesting way, because as an adult, I'm starting to sit here and it's Seth Rogen and other crazy guy with nice character. I don't know, they're nameless characters, but
Crazy Steve from Drake and Josh was in it for a second.
Is that? Oh, well, that's
It
not
wasn't
the
him.
knife wielding guy. Yeah, so
different guy.
whatever. The two main, like, I guess, antagonists in the film, the two bully guys, are just whatever reason just down in the cellar. Like,
I think they were getting rid of
Right.
the robber.
probably because they do give
It
that
was
hint.
foreshadowing.
Yeah, the
What?
foreshadowed that she has
Yeah,
like
I
jewels
guess
in
you
her
didn't-
house.
yeah.
right.
Yeah, you all didn't know. You didn't notice that, but the bully and his buddy. Did you see, like, pay attention in that whole scene where, like, he was like holding him with the knife and
Mhm.
everything? They were just about to rob that house whenever Donnie decided to
Why
just go
I know,
down
but
the
why
mess.
were they robbing that house?
Because the house had
The girl, that
Yeah,
woman
Grandma
was
Death.
super rich.
Right.
The
But
dad's
why do
sad.
they just happen to be there at that time?
it's
Donnie Darko.
That's just how
Yeah.
Donnie Darko.
because the teacher at one point tells him that the most beautiful word in the English language is cellar
Cellar
door,
door,
right. So-
and that's what made him decide that at that moment he was going to go down into the cellar, and that's
Right.
what it was like. So much of this is just like setting up just this path that he's going to follow, and I think a lot of that is. Like, I mean, that's the whole thing where it's like, if you're staying in God's path, whenever he's talking to the science teacher about, like, the bubbles coming out of their chest and everything, it's like, he's on a path.
right.
And you just see the hints of, like, everything that's pushing him just right towards where he's
It's
headed.
the old story of, like, everything happens for a reason, sort
Yeah.
of
Right.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
it was very foreshadowy, the whole movie. So,
It is one of the ones where I respect the movie for it, because it's one of the, like, again, even the small things, like where I mentioned, like, you see the pedophile, like, smacking the kid on the butt or something I don't ever think twice about the first time I watched this, probably even the first couple times because I was younger, but then, like, I know he's a pedophile later, and then, like, just seeing that one scene, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's a pedophile, that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
just the tiniest little hints, and it's not something that's ever lasted on. It's not like you're supposed to know this. It's the rewatch gives you more,
Mhm.
and I always enjoy that out of any movie, even if it's a bad movie. If it gives you more something worthwhile to look into it, that's like one of the cruxes for that. Any other good thing, bad thing? We kind of covered.
I know. You two killed it.
Yeah.
Us two over here haven't said much of anything.
Yeah, you guys go ahead. Sorry,
this
this
is my
one.
final notes and score myself. So,
Yeah, this.
You ready?
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
else to discuss after these two kept going on? Nope.
I'm sure we
Nope.
could go on. Hold on.
I can't.
Hold on.
I'm not even gonna lie.
So, I mean, we haven't discussed the fact that the director's cut does add, like, some extra context to it.
Yeah.
I wish one of us had watched that. I know I have seen the director's cut
Mhm.
at one point in time because, after watching this, I was just trying to, like, dig a little bit more into it, and then that's whenever I saw, it's like, oh, there was a director's cut, and I saw some of the stills from it of, like, what I'd missed, and I was like, oh, yeah, I've watched that at some point. I think the gist of it was it had excerpts from the Destructors,
Mhm.
and it was like basically trying to drive the lore a little bit more in the director's cut than what the theatrical release had, because the director of the movie, like, he had his own vision of, like, the way this sci-fi world was going to work and the way time travel and everything worked, and that's something that with that, like, extra 20 minutes is more clear,
Really fleshed out on.
but I don't
that
think
was
it needs to
necessary.
be. Like, it doesn't really need
That's
to be.
all.
Yeah, the movie.
Because again, it's like it's taking place in this weird little, like, thing about time travel and all this kind of stuff, but
Right.
I don't think it's so much about that. Like, it really is just that, like, teen drama, like.
It does get the vibe that you're like, the director had this, like, weird sci-fi thing and mixed in with the teen drama as, like, a general idea, and then they got to the studios and they're like, nah, teen drama is what's really selling right now. Let's cut most of that, and then you can just keep the weird stuff to just kind of still be there, which still holds up fine without.
Oh yeah, and it's good. It's weird and doesn't quite work scientifically, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's not really the point of sci-fi all the
The
time.
science doesn't check out.
I'm not trying to Interstellar Donnie
You
Darko.
crunch the
Right?
numbers.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
take the word of men you've never met. All right, we're not getting into Always Sunny references with that one, but all right. We want to go into scores now, guys. I guess we can
Yeah.
probably start on this side since it is Mason's movie, despite me and Nathan taking over a lot of this
I'll
podcast.
tell you what, I did not
Now,
expect
let
them
them
to
two.
be.
Let them two go first. They
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
the most.
Yeah,
Let's
you
let
guys
them.
give it a go.
Let's let them wear it out.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna go. Say 9 from you. That's my guess.
but I feel like I should change it.
You do what you want. I'm predicting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
For me,
yeah.
I mean, it's a 9. Like, I enjoyed it. I'm glad to have watched it again. It's not. it's not really a movie that I would have ever thought to go back and watch, but you know, it was a really enjoyable experience. And I unlike some movies that we watch, I feel better for having watched this by the end of it
Sure.
than I have with some
of the other
previous choices that have been made.
Was that a stab at me?
yeah, but we don't need to mention that movie.
Right.
Raw.
There you go.
Here I am thinking we're talking about Foxcatcher. So
I was seriously thinking like
He was the
that's your
other one
movie.
that like actually like felt the movie, but
Yeah.
no, not good.
Anyway. This movie's an 8 for me. Once upon a time, it's higher. It probably was a 9 whenever I was 13. Probably was a 10 whenever I was like at that age. And
Oh yeah,
I just
yeah.
feel him, man.
yeah, I do. I mean, there's no better way for it. You know, some
Nostalgia,
movies,
what do you
some
do?
movies you have that.
Exactly.
You have rose-tinted glasses, and it's great. And I take them just off a little bit watching it this time around because there's a couple scenes like again the mental health stuff I don't want to cover again, and then there's like just some of like that teen deepness where I'm sitting here and I'm just like. But then, yeah, again, to that point, it's like that's displaying what it was like at the time, so it's more
Yeah.
relevant to me. This movie still has gut punches that still hits me the same way, and it sends me back to that age, or I still like it at the end of the day. So I respect it at a nice solid 8 still.
This score they think is going to be an absolute crapshoot. I think it's a genuine score. I'm going at a 5.5.
Ooh, okay.
Oof.
I mean, 5 is just like where I'm like, I don't dislike the fact that I watched it. I'm not too happy I watched it. It's just middle of the road. It's a movie. I don't feel that much about it, and I gave it that extra little half because I always enjoy Jake Gyllenhaal, and I thought he did really good in this movie.
Yeah.
I have not given
think-
much.
I feel like
Say it all.
most of the actors did really well.
Yeah.
Like
All of them did.
Except
female-
for Drew Barrymore.
Jared Barrymore was the worst.
I totally
didn't like her.
I disagree.
You didn't like her?
I really
I
liked
know.
you very much.
Yeah, I thought she was good.
I didn't like her character.
Rose tinted glasses, these two.
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't like her character, and I thought she was too much.
Everyone was
her.
good. I
She
didn't
didn't.
like
She didn't
her.
feel realistic. Just like
She does make a couple
And-
weird things.
well,
Sit next to
that's
the
the
boy
thing.
that you think is the
Well,
Yeah, it's
cutest.
the writing that did it. Like, it's
Yeah,
not her.
but the thing too is like maybe you didn't have an English teacher like that because I had an English teacher that reminded me a lot of her.
I had a really inappropriate English teacher as well.
That's-
well,
What
and,
school did we go
and
to?
again, it was like I don't feel like that was realistic. And also, as I was telling him, like the science teacher, I don't think was realistic either. It's just like in Stranger Things, how you always have this middle school or high school science teacher who's actually a freaking genius, apparently. And
Yeah, he was a
knows
doctor.
everything.
Okay, one quick note. They did call him Doctor whatever his name is, and I'm like, no person with a doctorate's probably teaching in high school unless they either really messed up
They
in their
screwed up,
career
yeah.
or something else, because he should
Or-
be teaching master's level students the bachelor's at the latest.
Or they're trying to like fund their cancer with meth money and then eventually create an
yeah,
empire.
if he's making some
Yeah.
really poor decisions
Yeah.
or something, or if he just wants some of that sweet like high school V, that's a whole separate thing. But maybe that's a whole separate movie. I
What are you
don't.
talking about? I'm talking about Breaking Bad.
I don't
He
get
was
that
definitely
reference.
talking about
yeah, he was going for Breaking Bad.
Have you not
Oh,
seen
I
Breaking
see it
Bad?
now. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm defending the
Yeah.
meth cancer thing. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
because
there
that's the
with
whole
you.
reason he's up
Sorry.
in middle school is because he's super smart.
I didn't get that context. I went to school with a lot of messed up like teachers,
He really
so
did.
I was on my own world. Sorry. So you gave it a 5.5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 5.5.
Okay.
So again, at the end of this movie, the first time I watched it and I read it, I gave it an 8.
You
but
read it.
Read the everything because my brain is too.
Right. Did the
dull.
research on it.
Yeah, I did the research, had to look everything up. Had it at an 8, but now I actually have to backtrack to a 7
Here it is.
because I don't know, like
That's not a bad score.
no, it's good.
No,
It's,
not bad.
good. It's
Even
still
by
a
our
good
standards,
movie.
it's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I didn't like the fact that like the time loop ended so like openly to where he just had to end up showing up, I guess, at the top of this hill. Because I mean, essentially, like he just had to be there. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
What you said was the sci-fi aspect was kind of a little loose.
Yeah.
It's better than a
cool.
lot of time travel kind of movies.
True, and for 2001, I should give it more credit.
Yeah.
Was it 2000?
But yeah,
Yeah, it
it was.
was.
Oh, that was earlier.
But I will say,
Well, time period.
Jake
Yeah.
was looking like a snack. Maggie
Mhm.
Gyllenhaal was looking like a snack.
Jenna Malone
was looking like,
a snack.
God, there was so many just for everyone.
Disagree. Like, I don't find Drew Barrymore attractive in a lot of things.
She's true. Yeah, she's really pretty.
She
in
crushes
this.
in this. I don't give a
Yeah,
score based
I
on
do.
like value of how attractive I
I
think the cast
disagree.
is.
She looks doughy.
Jesus.
Much like that's my score is 7 at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean,
You look so
I was glad
sad.
that I watched it again, but I don't know if I'll watch it anytime.
I'm never done alone at the end of the day. Let's be real.
This was a
I feel
good time. So
All right. So kind of wrapping up on Donnie Darko, I guess let's look forward to our next week. It is Price's week, so maybe I shouldn't use that term looking forward. But Price, you have a movie pick coming up.
Oh, I'm definitely picking Step Brothers. It's one of. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. It's my favorite movie of all time.
I don't know if
I
I've
love
ever heard
it.
of that one.
I love it. Everyone here has seen it, but again,
Is Jake Gyllenhaal in
for
there?
this rotation, no. And it's not animated, by the way. Not
weird.
animated.
I don't.
But it is a comedy.
It is a comedy.
Okay, that checks out. Checks
yeah,
out.
so it's one of your two boxes.
It's
that
not
you
dry
check.
as bread though, so you all may be a fan. You all can understand it. You know, there's a little bit of fluff for
He looked
for
at
you
you
all.
too when he said
No, I was looking at you two.
No.
You two.
Alright, you'd have to look like it and the sideways crooked clown to be trying to look at me and Mason, buddy. Alright. We're calling your
Definitely
shit
look
right
right.
now.
I'll give it a 2.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So guaranteed I will review it lower because of this Priceless movie. No,
That's fair.
nah.
I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, nah.
It'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I enjoy it.
I don't remember it very well, so yeah,
Glad to hear it. I think
fresh.
I remember everything. I think you two say you didn't remember very much, and you remember,
I remember
quite a bit.
I watched that movie no less than 20 times over one spring break,
Okay,
so
yeah,
like that
I
movie is burned into my brain. That and Big Lebowski are like right there. Those are just on loops.
Big Lebowski, you know it.
I'm picking Nathan's movie ahead of
almost
time.
Be a pick.
Yeah?
it's a good choice.
I also just watched it for the first time last year.
I've seen it, and it's pretty.
Well, it's still Nathan's
pretty good.
favorite.
Oh, you still
movie
can't
choice,
pick it, yeah.
I could.
But this is beside the point.
I
We
have
got
some
Step
other
Brothers.
ideas, but yeah.
We got Step Brothers.
Yeah.
All right, more Will Ferrell, more favorite movies from Price. That's a comedy. That checks all the boxes here. Effing Movie Podcast. Guys, where can they catch you all at?
Why do you always ask that?
Because you got to
I
plug yourself.
recently got an Instagram.
Hey,
He's taking over Instagram.
He
I'm
actually-
taking it over one day at a time.
He took over Twitter, now he's doing Instagram.
Yeah, he's big on Twitter, and he DM'd my wife on Instagram. She told me about it. I think it's
Oh
weird.
yeah. She DM'd me.
Even weirder. We're not looking into those things.
I don't know how the etiquette is on that.
You don't want to know.
That means
Yeah,
Mason. That
it's
means
too
Mason.
deep.
That means Mason's going for it.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what it means.
Dylan can't push him back. He doesn't have the strength. He's not fit enough.
Yes, I am.
I'm
I'm a physical specimen. My knees are good. I haven't been running lately. My knees are solid. I just can't run for more than a mile. Otherwise, they swell up like balloons. That's terrible. But we're not
I
here to
just
talk
have to
about.
last a mile and a quarter.
Yeah, mile and a quarter. Mason's got me, and my wife, and that's it here at the Effing Movie Podcast. You can catch me at CAMACH Octopus at Twitter. You can try to follow me on Facebook, but I probably won't add you. I don't know who you are, strangers. That's what Twitter's for. I guess you can catch us on Instagram. Any other plugs you guys want to do?
Nope.
If you don't, they don't care. They don't want you to follow you, but you can always catch us
that's
here
fine.
at this
All right.
podcast every Friday night. We'll be uploading it whenever we upload it. Don't check the date on this. This might upload on a Wednesday. Stay tuned. We'll get consistent with that coming up.
Because today is actually July 19th. We should actually date these.
No.
No,
You're not
you're not supposed to date them.
Oh,
Forget it ever.
We're gonna edit this part out. Everybody have a great weekend.
Go up to
Stay
the
cool.
camera.
The heat index is insane. Have a great time. Bye, guys.
Forget that's what you heard.
Okay. So.